Please join me in welcoming to the podium and congratulating the inaugural recipient of the Benedict Leadership Award, Mr. Carl Anderson.
Well, thank you very, very much. It's really an honor to receive this inaugural award. I think of what St. Paul wrote when he said, when you've done what is asked, say simply you're a worthless servant. You've done only what's required of you. If anybody had asked me, of course I had nothing to say about it, who should be the first recipient of your leadership award, I would have nominated Belmont Abbey College for the defense of our religious liberty that you undertook when you stood up against the HHS mandate. We think about individuals being leaders, but institutions have to lead too. And institutions can only lead when they have a community of leaders dedicated and understand a moral purpose and a moral mission. And certainly this great college has such a community of leadership, and I would say a community of vision. One of the most pressing challenges facing our church today is the challenge of forming the next generation of authentically Catholic leaders, men and women who live and are able to act upon an integrated and coherent Catholic faith. And it is especially appropriate that such an initiative should begin here at Belmont Abbey College, an institution steeped in the ethos of St. Benedict, whose maxim, ora et labora, has inspired countless generations of Catholics to find ways that the spiritual reality of their faith may truly inform their life and their work. So let me begin with an essential aspect of the context of this situation, which we all know, but we do not often consider, and that is that Christianity was born in the Middle East. We often forget that today, that for the first 1,000 years of Christian history, the Middle East, and not Europe, was the center of Christendom. And for the past 100 years, Christians have been squeezed out of the Middle East. From 1910 to 2010, the New York Times reports that the Christian population of the region declined from 14% to 4%, and that was before ISIS. A century ago, our government understood that these people needed to be saved. It was a public-private partnership. Government officials, including President Woodrow Wilson, urged Americans to assist those who were facing extinction. How different things have become a century later. As ISIS swept across the desert of northern Iraq in 2014, our government could hardly have been bothered. There was no great enduring public movement led by our government to save the Christians and Yazidis who were being killed or displaced by ISIS. These Christians have been kidnapped. They have had their children kidnapped. They have been threatened with death or killed for not converting to Islam. They have had their homes taken or destroyed, and these are the Christians wives, mothers, and daughters who have been forced into sexual slavery. These Christians have now reached a tipping point. They are on the edge of extinction. This is the reality our Christian brothers and sisters endure because they would not renounce Christ. But where has been the effect of leadership in the West to rescue them? My friend, Father Douglas Bazzi, is a parish priest in Erbil, Iraq. He oversees a large refugee camp for Christians and was himself tortured for days by Islamic terrorists who broke his back with a hammer. Father Bazzi has said that genocide is the polite word for what is happening to Christians in Iraq today. Well, as the psalmist says, there is a season for all things, but perhaps the season for polite words has passed. Perhaps the time of cordial dialogue and polite petitions and government studies has passed. Perhaps now is the season for passionate leadership in the defense of Christians in the region. I would say that now is the time for action. This summer, Mr. Trump said, "We have done nothing to help the Christians in the Middle East. We should be ashamed of ourselves. We left Christians subject to intense persecution and even genocide." He is right that our country should be ashamed of how little it has done. And while his administration inherited this problem, now his administration is in a position to fix it. And he needs to do so. First, the administration should ensure that no community that suffered genocide is overlooked by or excluded from U.S. government aid programs. At a minimum, we should do here what we did for Darfur through USAID. Second, the administration should insist that the UN also assist all communities that suffered genocide by including them in humanitarian and reconstruction aid. Communities matter. Communities have a right to exist, and they should be protected and given priority. Third, the administration should work with the international community to defeat ISIS and to bring the perpetrators of this savage genocide to justice. Congress should also act by swiftly passing H.R. 390, the Iraq and Syria Genocide Emergency Relief and Accountability Act, co-sponsored by Republican Congressman Chris Smith and Democratic Congresswoman Anna Eshoo. This bill would help ensure much-needed aid reaches these decimated communities. Their plight calls out to us for action and a new spirit of Christian solidarity. Their witness should inspire us to take up the challenge. Thank you very much.